Good evening. My name is Leonard Richardson. I'm the author of 2 novels from Candlemark and Gleam, Constellation Games, a space opera about video games, which you can buy now, and Situation Normal, a military SF satire, which will be out in December. But tonight I'm going to read 2 flash pieces, The Wheel of Chores and The Procedure Sign. First up, The Wheel of Chores. I don't write a lot of fantasy because I find it a little hard to connect with the genre, so I'm really glad that I found this entry point. We start with just 2, a husband and wife, and in the usual way they create everything that needs creating. The sun, the moon, fish and grass and dinosaurs and human beings. What, no dinos where you come from? Keep digging, you'll find them. I don't know what you call these 2 in your country, so let's just call them Mom and Dad. You know who I'm talking about. What I want to tell you is the decision they made next. Having gone on their little spree, our famous couple were stuck with all of these things that needed constant care. Sky and water and people and animals. And only so many hours in the day. Though they had no one to blame but themselves. In a fit of optimism, they'd made the day too short. So the 2 created some children, and as the children reported for duty, each was given responsibility for one of the chores. The harvest, the oceans, the phases of the moon. Again, I'm not particular what names you give them. But recall, I'm sure you've noticed this, that in any family, some of the children are hard workers and others are, well, lazy. Mom and Dad pled and chided and even yelled, but some of the kids just would not do their chores. For a while, the parents tried to keep things running by giving the more important jobs to the hard-working children. But hard workers are not stupid and don't like being taken advantage of. Eventually, even the reliable children began to shirk their chores. This system reached its breaking point the day the dinosaurs all died. Somebody had forgotten to feed them. Dad called the family talk and said, "This has gone far enough. You kids are going to do your chores." 2 things absolutely must happen, no matter what, said Mom. The harvest has to happen, or the humans will die, and the sun has to move across the sky, or everything else will die. I will take care of the harvest, and your father will take care of the sun. For everything else, we will use the Wheel of Chores. Mom had carved the Wheel of Chores out of stone from very far away. She'd carved it with the name of every chore that needed doing, and fitting snugly inside, she'd made a second wheel with the names of the children. Every year, we'll rotate the wheel, and you will get a new chore, said Dad. This way you won't get bored, said Mom, speaking to some of the children more than others. I have a way where many of the chores can do themselves, said one of the lazy children, the laziest of all, in fact. We will set down rules, and the chores can do themselves according to the rules. That may be good for some chores, said Dad, but not the important ones like moving the sun. Moving the sun is the easiest one, said the laziest child. You kids will learn responsibility, said Mom. So for some time, the wheel gave out the chores. This experience did not teach the lazy children responsibility, but the turning of the wheel meant that no chore was neglected for long. Farmers would say, it must be so-and-so's turn to handle the rain. And the next year, the chore would go to some other kid and the rains would be better. A flood? I don't know any flood stories, but sure, floods happen. You ask your son to cook the meat and he forgets to take it off the fire. Same idea. Occasional floods aside, the chores mostly got done and civilizations prospered, producing an age of great heroes who caused the next serious problem. One of the heroes somehow found out where the family lived, broke into the house, and made off with the Wheel of Chores. Who did this? Said Dad, looking at the plinth where the wheel had stood. Not me, said all the children at once. It was one of the great heroes, said the laziest child, the one who had proposed that the chores should do themselves. Why would someone do this? Said Mom. Even a hero. Why would we do it? Said the laziest child. Don't talk back, said Mom. One of you find the so-called hero and bring the wheel back. None of the children volunteered to retrieve the wheel. It wasn't technically a chore, so it was nobody's job to do it. And now that the wheel was gone, none of the kids really wanted it back. The lazy ones didn't like doing their chores, and the hardworking ones didn't like cleaning up after the lazy ones. Fine, I'll do it, said Dad after a long silence. He pointed to the laziest child. You, move the sun while I'm gone. You think it's so easy. Shouldn't we? Said Mom. It'll take one day. How bad can things get in one day? Heroes are good at sneaking around, but none of them could beat Dad in a fair fight. Dad had the wheel back the next day. He came into the house happy, whistling a little tune. There had been no complaints about the behavior of the son. By this time, the humans knew such complaints should be addressed to Dad, and he would have heard. Good job, said Dad to his laziest child. I'm glad you're finally taking this seriously. Thanks, Dad, said the laziest child. Wait a minute, why are you here? Who's minding the sun? Dad rushed out to the sun, which was on the other side of the world, moving smoothly through the sky all on its own. I told you, said the laziest child. Said Dad. He tapped the sun gently with one finger, hearing it ring, and let it move on its own for the rest of the day. He pressed his ear to the sun, and then he left it alone for a year. The sun moved around and around the earth. No one complained. Dad frowned. It lacks the personal touch. The humans love it, said the laziest child. No more wobbles while you're eating lunch. So we can do this for all the chores, said one of the other lazy children. I don't see why not. Mom and Dad grumbled, but they were dramatically outvoted. This will free us up to do other chores, one of the industrious children pointed out. But there were no other chores. The recovered wheel was a comprehensive list of everything that needed doing, and once the clever children set their minds to it, it turned out each chore could be replaced by a few simple rules. And that's how things work now. The sun moves, the harvest happens, the dinosaurs are still dead. You and I complain about death and war, but death and war are chores which are being done. Complaining won't do any good. What do they do now? I can't say I know for sure. It's not an easy house to get to. But I did recently talk to one of humanity's modern heroes, as famous in your country as in mine, who decided to emulate the old-timers by sneaking into the house and stealing the wheel. This time the heist went off without a hitch. His hero still has the wheel. I don't think they even know it's gone. Apparently Mom and Dad and the kids now spend a lot of time playing board games. Some of the children cheat, but overall they get along better than they used to. Oh, no board games where you come from? Here, hand me that stick. I'll draw on the ground. You're in for a treat. Thank you. The second story I'm going to read, the procedure sign, was inspired by a famous example of bad writing from Strange Horizons Stories We've Seen Too Often page. Quote, a mysteriously named event is about to happen. Today was the day Jimmy would have to report for the procedure. But the nature of the event isn't revealed until the end of the story, when it turns out to involve death or other unpleasantness. Because of this, I can only read this story to an audience once I've built up a certain amount of trust, which I hope I have by now. So here is the procedure sign. When Tommy turned 10, his parents brought him in for the procedure. He was separated from them and brought into an auditorium in the hospital basement. He sat in a padded back chair next to hundreds of other children who had just turned 10. Some of the children struggled and kicked, which gave Tommy the idea to do the same. The doctor strapped him in and put on a tight headband that pulled his head back against the chair. That put a stop to it. Tommy stared at a blank concrete wall painted hospital green. He heard the hot air hum of a projector starting up behind him. He squished his eyes closed, but the headband gave him an electric shock that jolted them open. A large black blur appeared on the wall. The procedure had begun. All around him, Tommy heard the other children groaning. Tommy squinted at the blur, making it twist and fuzz. He had actually been looking forward to the procedure. It was what made you a grown-up. He'd finally be able to read the procedure signs that hung from ceilings and street corners, the signs that told adults what to do. But nothing happened inside him. All at once, the other children stood up from their padded back chairs. The kids in Tommy's row walked single file past him, towards the exit. Tommy was still strapped in. He started to struggle again. "Help!" he cried out. None of the other children looked at him or said anything. The projector shut off. After a few minutes, the doctor came and shone a light into Tommy's eyes. The doctor removed Tommy from the padded back chair and brought him into a room where his mother and father were waiting. "Your son needs glasses," said the doctor. "Oh," said Tommy's father, as if this explained everything. "We thought he was just clumsy," said his mother. Tommy was taken to another room and sat in another chair. An eye doctor flipped lenses in front of his eyes, back and forth, back and forth. The eye doctor gave Tommy an ugly set of black-rimmed glasses and walked him down the hallway to the elevator, back into the basement. With the new glasses, Tommy could read the procedure signs that hung from the ceiling all down the hall. But the signs said boring things like, "Restrain all children," and "Keep gurneys out of this area." They weren't special signs at all, just regular signs, all in capital letters. In the auditorium, there were now only 5 other children Tommy's age, wearing identical glasses. This time, Tommy didn't struggle. He let it happen. The projector started up and a shape appeared on the wall. The shape was words. The words said, "This is the procedure." All around him, Tommy heard the children groaning. After a minute, the words changed to, "Leave the auditorium." The other children got up and shuffled past Tommy, looking straight ahead. Tommy just sat in the chair. Before long, the projector shut off. One of the doctors stood in front of Tommy with a displeased look on his face. He gave a little sigh. Tommy was brought back to his parents, and they were led into a fancy office with a big desk. Sitting behind the desk was the director himself. "Your son has a rare psychological condition which prevents the procedure from taking effect," said the director. "He needs the therapy." "Cut to the chase, Doc," said Tommy's father. "How much is this going to cost?" "The procedure is mandatory," said the director. Tommy stood up. "It just said this is the procedure." "Mm-hmm," said the director and jotted a note on Tommy's hospital file. "Can I have a moment alone with Tommy?" said his father. "Of course," said the director. He swiveled in his chair and put his fingers in his ears. "Look, son," said Tommy's father, "we can't afford any fancy therapy, so we're going to send you downstairs one more time and you just pretend the procedure worked." "How can I pretend if I don't know what it's like?" said Tommy. "It's really easy," said your mother. "Just say it worked and obey the procedure signs for the rest of your life." "I have an idea," said Tommy. He pulled the hospital file towards him across the desk. On the back, with the director's pen, he wrote, "The procedure worked," in capital letters. He pinched the file between 2 fingers and showed it around. Everyone relaxed instantly. "How about that?" said the director. "The procedure worked. False alarm." "That wasn't so bad, was it?" said Tommy's mother. The director pushed a dish of candy across his desk. "Take a lollipop, Tommy. You're a good boy." Tommy scribbled, "Tell him to take 2 on the file. In fact, take 2. Tommy took 3. No one complained. He was a good boy. The procedure had worked. Thank you. Thanks for coming to this virtual reading. Hope you had a good time. Once again, I have 2 novels being published from Candlemark and Gleam, Constellation Games, which you can read now, and Situation Normal, which is out in December. Thanks again, and good night.